Welcome to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show where we discuss all things political, local and global in a fair and balanced manner. I am Reuben Abati. I'm Reuben Abati, your host for This Day Live, the Sunday talk show. Let me introduce our guest today. We're joined by the Executive Director of This Day newspaper, Ijoma Nwogogo. And also Professor Bola Akinterinwa, former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director of Enough is Enough, a non-partisan advocacy group that works to promote good governance and public accountability. Welcome to all of you. We've got a lot to talk about. So let's get started with a look at some of the issues of the week. It's no longer news that Aishah Ahmad has been appointed Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Before her appointment, she was an investment advisor with 20 years' experience with global financial institutions. She is known as a strong voice for female empowerment and the current chairperson of a leading women-focused NGO in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, her appointment has generated a lot of views, a lot of debate. Some people have said particularly that this is a good sign, that the Buhari administration is promoting women and also giving young Nigerians opportunities at the highest level. Ijoma, what do you think?
Well, I think it's, like you've already said, it's, her appointment has been generally welcomed. She's a very young woman, and I'm sure, but in spite of her youth, she has excellent 20-year track record in both finance and investment banking. So I'm sure she will bring all that to bear in her new appointment as a central bank deputy governor.
Yeah, but there are also some people who are saying that the central bank is not really about banking if you are looking for professionals. Yeah. That is a place for economists. And that in terms of balance, is it not better to have more economists running the central bank to strengthen the institution?
Yeah, well, you also need to understand that the central bank, you have it has separate units in the central bank. There's the operations aspect of it. Our central bank doesn't just focus on economic policy. It also focuses on regulatory issues with respect to banking and finance. So she could bring her and financial system stability. So given her experience coming from the banking sector, I don't think you necessarily need an economist to give you the kind of support and regulatory advice in that function. Yes, when it comes to monetary policy issues, this determining whether you're going to keep interest rates low, you're going to take them up, and stuff like that. Certainly, you need an economist who needs to understand the dynamics of all the forces that come into play when determining whether to keep the rate unchanged or to raise it or not. You're looking at inflation on the exchange rate and so many other issues. But like I said, you have the operations aspect of the central bank, you have the financial system stability and whatever.
Well, I guess for many young Nigerians, the really exciting thing is that she's young.
Oh, yes.
And you know, there are many young Nigerians who have been calling for better recognition for young people. There are some who are even saying they need more young people in positions of responsibility. What do you think?
Let me put on record that at least I share the viewpoint of Ijoma. We need expertise, but at a multidimensional level. Youth, of course, people should be happy. You have youth there. But you don't buy experience with money. All right? The youth are said to have vision. All right? But in visioning, at the end of the day, it must go pari passu with experience. So as much as we appreciate the appointment of a youth, we must also bear in mind that an economist is not a mechanic. There is the need to always bear in mind the need to put round pegs in round holes. The operational departments, discussion on rates, the policy, the political aspects, all these are there. But it is encouraging, at least, to have a youth appointed to that position. That necessarily raises a new perspective on and about the president. That is to say, well, Mr. President is now looking differently. He wants to promote, all right, a new future for the youth by engaging them. So let's hope that the youth with 20 years of experience will continue on the basis of the principle of objectivity of purpose. In most cases, it's not that we do not have experts, specialists, but the major problem is that they often lose focus, all right? They are unnecessarily politicized, and they will no longer stick, to the dynamics of what is required. But so far, so good.
Well, I mean, this also probably offers us an opportunity to make some comments about the Central Bank of Nigeria. And there have been quite a number of criticism in terms of how certain policies have been managed. There are persons who have accused the Central Bank, for example, of just printing money to get the economy going. Yemi, what's your own thought on this?
Well, I'd say just really quickly, I mean, Aisha will be 40 on the 26th of October. So in terms of youth, she ticks that box. In terms of female, she ticks that box. And it's something that Lamido Sanusi started during his own tenure as central bank governor. But I think the concerns around, I mean, she's being built to replace Sarah Alade, who was in charge of economic policy. So I think it also parallels to when we appoint ministers, that they get vetted at the Senate, but nobody knows what portfolio they're going to have. So I think in terms of the concerns around what her role will be and her experience, if the appointment came with she will be responsible for XXXXY, I think that would put those concerns at bay.
Well,
and then, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I guess not even just for Aishah Ahmad. When ministers' names are sent to the Senate for confirmation, the old regular criticism has always been that the specific portfolio must be indicated. But in our own case, giving her a particular portfolio, I guess that would be the responsibility of the governor of the central bank. You were going to say something about the CBN.
Yes, about her portfolio. Yes. She's only replacing Dr. Sarah Alade from her region, not to take up the post of economic policy.
No, I know that.
Right now, we have a deputy governor who is in charge of economic policy. Dr. Nana, he's taking over that portfolio. He's an economist, just like Sarah Alade. So it is very unlikely that she's going to be given that same portfolio.
Okay, but you don't, I see you are avoiding an assessment of the central bank because I thought that is the real issue, the capacity of that bank to continue.
Well, the question was actually
deliver.
directed, but if you'd like to discuss it, well, there are some concerns about the printing or quantitative, some people call it printing of Naira to fund the federal government. Some people call it quantitative easing. But you also ought to understand that we are in a recession. The recession stemmed from the fact that oil prices plummeted. As a corollary to that, our revenue dropped. So which means government expectations in terms of earnings were far below what they were expecting, which meant that the central bank had to pump in more money, had to lend the government more money to reflate the economy. However, I do understand the concerns that when you're pumping so much money, when you're lending the government so much money, it has an impact on inflation, But on the other hand, while the central bank, the real criticism there is that on the one hand, it is lending so much money to government, and then on the other hand, it is doing everything to mop up this inflation by creating special auctions. And that is why you have so much lending by the government in terms of through The open market
there's
operations.
also the effect of inflation. You know, you print more money and all that.
Yes.
And you don't have enough within the economy, enough absorptive capacity. But let's move on. The chairman of the INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, says he will not be dissuaded from proceeding with the recall of Kogi State Governor, Senator Dino Melaye. Senator Dino Melaye. The INEC chairman, Mahmoud Yakubu, says constituents have the right to recall anybody they want in a democracy. And he also added that the commission will be making its decision once it receives the documents on the Court of Appeal judgment. The chairman also had a warning for politicians seeking to run in 2018 and 2019 elections, that since the schedule for the elections has not been released yet, they must stop campaigning in order not to be in violation of the Electoral Act. And you know, of course, that some people are already campaigning. You must have seen footages of some presidential campaign buses. And then, of course, you have this other Dino Melaye matter and the difficulty in even getting to serve him the papers. So, do you agree with the INEC chairman?
Most definitely. I think it's even very unfortunate that Mr. Melaye is a member of the ruling party, if I want to use that word. The Constitution makes it very clear that constituents have the right. Now, if you have a problem with it, the part of the process is a verification procedure where those who signed the petition have to come forward and say, yes, I signed, and this is my signature. Now, if you have concerns about dead people or fake people signing, then that's your opportunity to ensure that the people who did sign the petition are actually legitimate human beings who live in your constituency. But what Mr. Melaye has done is gone to court, stopped the process, APC in Kogi State backing him up, APC National not saying anything. So for me, that's even very concerning that this is a clear, I mean, as the INEC chairman has said, clearly the Constitution says that's possible. And a member of the ruling party is clearly trying to circumvent what the Constitution makes possible.
But perhaps some people have their doubts because I guess it has never happened before in Nigeria.
Not successfully.
Has anyone ever been recalled? Can you?
No, we don't recall anybody.
So this is about the first time, and I get.
It's the farthest it's gone. I mean, several attempts, but Mr. Melaye's one will be the farthest it's ever gone.
But Prof, what of the message from the INEC chairman?
You see, we should look at it a little bit differently. We can liken it to the situation of a sending state, but not receiving state. Receiving state will replace it with recalling state. Now, the sending state, Kogi State. Melaye is a senator representing one of the three senatorial seats for that state. The state now, the constituent, with the legitimate right to recall, must first of all be located at the electoral level, the sending constituency. Yes. The people who elected him to represent them have the legitimate right of recall. Yes. For whatever reason.
Yeah, but they're saying they've gone through that process, and Senator Melaye is insisting that he's a victim of politics.
I am coming.
Political
I am coming to that level.
Engineering in his own
That's
state.
why I put it at the level of a sending state and a receiving state. But I replaced receiving state with recalling state. The people are the state now. Now, the issue is that when you have the right, the legitimate right of the sending people and law, okay, how do you manage, how do you reconcile the right of Melaye to contest whatever So, the issue now is not between Melaye and the people, it's law. Yeah. So, which law should have primacy?
Which law does Melaye have on his side? I don't understand.
The right to complain, the right
challenge
to
challenge it. He has the right to challenge it.
What is he challenging exactly?
He's saying that dead people signed that petition.
The process, which is why I said when I went through the process, there's a clearly defined process of verification. So INEC would actually bring out the petition with the names. Part of what they're trying to serve him is the list of people. He has a right to review that list.
No, before that, you see.
So that's where he will challenge that.
Let's hold our thoughts on that. Maybe we'll return to it later.
All right.
The Super Eagles of Nigeria, congratulations, I should say, to So all Nigerians have qualified for the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia after a slim 1-0 victory over Zambia's national team. Now, Nigeria is the first African team to qualify for that competition. So that's why I say congratulations. And yesterday, indeed, you know, the boys, if I may use that word, did very well. And I just hope that, you know, when we get to Russia in 2018, we'll take the World Cup and bring it to Nigeria and bring it to Africa. Oh, you are laughing. You don't think it's possible? About time we won the World Cup
all things are possible.
in soccer.
No, but you see, the beauty of it all is that the match is a reflection of what we can call, quote and unquote, this day life. That is, when we say this day, give us this day our daily bread. Give us this day scores. Now, when we are thinking in the future, putting ourselves in the future, like we are building imaginary houses in the air, this day simply means on that day, when we will be in Russia, that day will become this day, and we will take the cup, and then it will be this day life, covering. It's a concept, yes, precisely. So there's, you cannot doubt what has not come into being, and there's no scientific basis of disagreeing with what has not happened.
Well, if you're talking football, I mean, track record, quality, capacity, training, finance,
maybe we should just leave it.
There's luck there too.
Encouraging the boys. Fair enough.
And you know, asking that they should be properly motivated by the relevant.
Yes, so that you can continue. Yes.
I mean, Nigerians all over social media, they are celebrating Mikel Obi, Alex Iwobi, you know, and the rest of the team. And anytime Nigeria does well in any sporting competition, you see we all become...
We are united.
We become united.
And Nigeria exists at that moment.
Yes. Well, Nigeria exists at all moments.
And also credit should be given to the technical advisor we have this time. I think he's done a very good job in terms of making sure, in terms of his selection, and in terms of making sure that there's a synergy amongst the boys, because they come from different clubs all over the world, and it's not easy to put a team together to make sure that they coordinate and everything. Well, so we hope that what we can hope is that they go for at least, even if they get to the semi-finals, that will be a major accomplishment for them. Yes, we pray for the World Cup, but I want to be a bit more, you know, practical. And,
no, it's possible. You know, we can do it.
We've
done it before in the Olympics. Who says we cannot do it?
Different time.
Well, something sad happened in the United States. What has been called the worst shooting in the United States history, when Stephen Paddock, 64-year-old, opened fire on a crowd of people who were attending an outdoor music festival in Las Vegas. About 60 people were killed, more than 500 got injured, and you know, Paddock apparently committed suicide as police were about to storm his shooting position on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel. The police found in his room 23 guns, at least another 19 guns, and explosive at his home in Nevada. In the wake of the carnage, the National Rifle Association, the NRA, has announced that it's willing to even support some gun restrictions, which has been something of a big debate in the United States. One of the reasons Paddock was able to gun down hundreds of people is because he used a special device called a bomb fire stock, some kind of automatic rifle. So sad, you know, when you hear these stories. Today is hurricane, tomorrow is another tragedy. And this whole point about gun control in the United States, I know it's a big, big issue, but what do you think?
You see, is the problem that of gun control or the problem of control of freedom? There are two different things.
What's the connection?
You see, the right to buy, to keep, to use a gun, whether it's an automatic rifle or whatever, is the issue. Now, as much as I remain an advocate of what I would call perfect freedom, perfect freedom for me is the exercise of a freedom that does not infringe, that is not detrimental to the freedom of another. Yes. That is what I call perfect freedom. Now, in the...
As opposed to absolute freedom.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah, you are saying there's no absolute freedom.
I can't agree with you more. You are right. You see, the issue is that in the United States, everybody is trying to underscore, the freedom at all levels, in all its ramifications. When people now can go to any shop, you identify yourself and you buy, and you keep. The issue now is, how do you control the mind of the owner?
Very quickly, Yemi, is it freedom, right, to be free, that pushes people to kill?
No, definitely not. I mean, the right to own a gun and the freedom that comes with that is, for me, it doesn't translate into freedom to take somebody else's life. And what's that popular adage? Your freedom ends where we begin to infringe on mine. And this is, for me, that summarizes that.
But the problem is that you don't have control. If you look at, you go the memory lane, go down the memory lane, we have records of people who saw a black man in the filling station buying fuel, and he said, I didn't like his face. And he took his gun and shot him dead. It's because you are in possession of the gun that you are able to kill. So if you do not have it, please, you wouldn't be in a position to just kill.
You also ought to understand the nature of America. This is enshrined in their constitution, the right to bear arms. Look at Australia. Australia had, in terms of the creation or the origin of Australia and America, they have a lot of similarities. They are both frontier countries. So Australia also had that right to bear arms. But once they legislated on gun control, the statistics are out there. Do you understand that there was a drop in gun-related violence and deaths? There was a drop in gun-related suicide. There was a drop in all these things. Now, but unfortunately in America, it's been so politicized, very unfortunately, with the NRA, the National Republican... National Rifle Association, being such a huge contributor to the Republican Party, in terms of funding and what have you. So it has a huge say in all these things. Right now, even members of Congress, even Republican members of Congress, are all aghast of what has happened. And they all say, okay, maybe they need to adjust the legislation. But again, the NRA is going to apply so much pressure to make sure this gun control, legislation on gun control...
At the end of the day, I guess it's important to stress the
but this is all homegrown terrorism, if you ask me.
Well, but it's important, all the same, to stress the point about the right to life.
We have
the right to human dignity.
Which is more important.
We have been told that the father of Paddock himself is one of the 10 most wanted people in America.
Correct.
We have also been told that this same Paddock, all right, either about 6, 7, 8 years ago, has become a terrorist in the making. Whereas it's not on record in the past 8 years that he has any terroristic
and the killing was premeditated.
Precisely.
And carefully planned, with even calculations and numbers of persons and angles that he wanted to
So if we have that
target.
background history, what influence should that have on Paddock's ability to actually purchase a gun? And that's part of the conversation around...
Anyway, we'll pause here.
It is clear. The issue is that,
Prof,
you cannot have what is not given to you.
we'll pause here for a short break. You are watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise channel with me, Reuben Abati. We will be right back.